the first half.
Joe Tiller ushered in the next era of Purdue football. The cradle of quarterbacks rode a revitalized passing game to 9 wins and a tie for second in the Big Ten. This season, the project is a repeat performance. While the offense rebuilds around quarterback Drew Brees, the Boilermaker defense returns the necessary know-how to make this season a carbon copy. A warm, cloudless day at Ross-Ade Stadium. We may get near 90 degrees this afternoon for the home opener in the 1998 season for the Purdue Boilermakers, as today they welcome from the Western Athletic Conference the Rice Owls. And we welcome you to West Lafayette, Indiana. Dave Barnett, along with Bill Curry. We, I think, have succeeded in a very difficult assignment. There are 112 teams playing Division I-A football, and I'm pretty sure we have brought together the two that have the least in common, at least offensively today.
Well, I think that's exactly right. These systems are different, but they are both extremely sophisticated. Remember the names Drew Brees and Jeremy Bates, two young quarterbacks who are getting their continued baptismal process, not by fire, but by system. Brees has to operate an offense in 2.5 seconds where he sees coverage, he sees linebackers, he sees blitzes, gets rid of the ball, and gets it to the right place. He's learning. Jeremy Bates, on the other hand, operates an option offense, a true triple option, in which he must ride and decide based on the movements of defensive linemen and linebackers. An offense that gained 332 yards a game last year, second only to mighty Nebraska. But in all games like this, the defenses end up having the biggest impact. So probably the defense that gets the most stops will determine this game.
But we have the WAC team with the grinded-out offense, and we've got the Big Ten team with the WAC offense, and we've got a prediction. Rice will throw fewer passes today than Purdue will throw in their first series. We have the home opener coming up. 9 wins in an Alamo Bowl championship a year ago for Purdue, and they're ready to go against the Owls when we return right after we check in the studio with Larry Beal.
All right, thanks very much, guys. Rice will not throw the ball unless they absolutely have to. We'll be here all day long keeping you updated on the major stories of the day in college football. And we start with Joe Pa trying to bowl a 300. The Nittany Lions going for win number 300 for Joe Paterno against Bowling Green. And the #1 team in the nation, Ohio State, taking on in-state rival as they try to shoot down the Toledo Rockets. Over on the Deuce tonight, we've got doubleheader action, Georgia and South Carolina. And Georgia's talented quarterback, Quincy Carter. All eyes will be on him. Then the late game, 9 p.m. Eastern, Arizona State and BYU. Get the feeling, yeah, maybe a few points will be scored in that one. ESPN primetime. We turn things over to NASCAR, the Exide 400, race number 25 on the year-long series from Richmond, Virginia. Jeff Gordon, your points leader. Rusty Wallace is on the pole. Coming up next, Isaac Jones and the Boilermakers hoping to boil over offensively. Rice Purdue straight ahead.
Rice and Purdue don't get together very often. This is just their third meeting in history. Rice won here in 1934, 14-0. And their second and most recent meeting 40 years ago in Houston, a Purdue shutout, 24-0 in 1958. Let's check in right now with the third member of our crew on the sidelines today, Dave Ryan.
Well, Dave, if Purdue is going to stop the Rice option attack and make another run at a bowl game this year, they've got to have great play from senior defensive end Roosevelt Colvin. The co-captain from Indianapolis led the team in sacks last year with 12.5, but was shut out in the team's season opener against USC 2 weeks ago. No tackles, no assists. He's got to come up big today. In the offseason, he worked a lot on strength, conditioning, and speed. He's moved up from a 4.95 to a 4.69 40-yard dash. Guys, yesterday meeting with Roosevelt, he said the team is ready to stop the option attack. They've worked all week on the scout team and trying to face it, but his role is a little bit different. Instead of rushing the passer now, he's got to be disciplined and stay quick against Jeremy Bates and Michael Perry, who are very fast in the Rice offensive backfield.
It's an attack that makes you go a little bit against instinct, and that is one reason it has been so successful for so many years for Kent Hatfield. Now in his 5th season in Houston, where 500 is like winning almost every game for a lot of programs. He has brought unprecedented success. For the last several decades, they have not had back-to-back 7-win seasons as he has supplied the last 2 years. And Joe Tiller in his second year here in West Lafayette, 9 wins last year, lost his opener out in L.A. to USC 2 weeks ago, 27-17. 8 years overall, including great success at Wyoming, 48-34-1. And what he brought here last season was the type of passing offense that they haven't seen in a number of years at Purdue. This is a cradle of quarterbacks. They've seen good passing attacks, but not quite as prolific as the 97 edition. They led the Big Ten in total offense, 33 points per game, a single season record, and a lot of faces have changed, but the basic philosophy, even with the new quarterback, Drew Brees, has not.
Drew Brees stepped right into the breach after they lost Billy Dicken, who led the league last year in passing. Threw the ball extremely well. 30 completions in his first time out, and don't forget there were 9 dropped balls. And Dave, the coaches really emphasized that in Purdue's offense, they must catch the ball. But we got 2 of the great programs in America here today, kicking off.
Purdue wins the toss, defers. Travis George's kick, allowed by Michael Perry to go all the way through the end zone, and Rice will set up after the touchback at their 20-yard line. The triple option owl spread option, as Hatfield has called it in Houston. Arkansas called it the flex bone. Hasn't really changed much over the years. It's Bates triggering, and then Michael Perry doing most of the carrying. The leading ball carrier in the WAC a year ago at 103 points per game. If they throw, it'll probably be to Jason Blackwell. He had all 3 catches in their opening win over SMU. And Charles Torello, the best up front, 3-season All-America candidate, a senior from Richardson, Texas. And the first carry of the day and the year for Talon Gordon, the H-back who didn't carry at all against Mustangs. Roosevelt Colvin there for Purdue's defensive front 4, which also includes Chike O'Keefer, Brent Botts, and David Nugent. But Colvin looking for a big burst after being shut out against USC. Averaged about 13 tackles last year. Willie Fells led them and was 3rd in the Big Ten in tackles a year ago. Second down pitch, first carry for Perry, who gets around Fells and is finally pushed out of bounds by Billy Gustin. Gives us a chance to check the Purdue secondary, which won't do much in terms of pass coverage today. It includes Adrian Beasley, the defensive MVP, with 2 interceptions in the Alamo Bowl victory over Oklahoma State last year. Hawthorne probably their best cover guy. Gustin may be the fastest of all, sub-4 speed, and Austin is at the other corner.
Dave, the very first play we saw something that Coach Hatfield got from Little Cumberland College. They call it the alert jet sweep. Not supposed to be any hard blocks, but nobody blocked Roosevelt Colvin.
Out of the bone, Perry off tackle and stuffed at the line of scrimmage. On a 3rd and 3, good start for Willie Fells.
Yes, indeed, Willie Fells is the leading tackler on this team. What they love to do is to run the counter. You can see that it begins this way, but the ball ends up going the other way. I think this is Rice's very best play. But what happens is that Fells stays at home. Number 40 is patient. He doesn't flow toward the initial fake. And that's why he made the good play.
So, still needing 3. Deshaun Austin back, waiting the kick by Scott Grimes. Austin will spin just across the 40-yard line. 34-yard effort by Grimes, and the Purdue offense with Brees and Jay Crabtree's just Jay. He won't reveal what the J stands for. He had 12 carries, 49 yards against the Trojans. Junior college transfer. Isaac Jones, the leading receiver, 10 catches against USC. Cox, Randolph, and Lane, they will rotate in 5 or 6 others. And up front, they're led by Chucky Okobe, who started every game last year as a redshirt freshman. He's back, as is Niedrich at center, Light, Starnes, and Gordon also up front. And out of the shotgun, play fake by Brees. And his first completion of the day, as he finds his tight end, Tim Stratton, over the middle. Maybe enough for the first down. The Rice defense led up front by Terrace Melton, who reminds him of Ndukwe Kalu, who was all Southwest and Western Athletic Conference, having just left Rice. Smith, Hughes, and Duncan up front. Rashad Reynolds for the third year in a row. Their top linebacker, his 24th consecutive start. Benford's not far behind him, and they're joined by Ruffin. Their secondary led by Ladolphius McCalla, who had an interception last week. First carry of the day by Vinny Sutherland, who will mostly catch passes, but occasionally they'll slip him in as a running back. Speedster out of West Palm Beach, Florida, brought down by Benford. He got 2, 2nd and 8. Maybe the most telling stat of Drew Brees' first start, Bill, was the fact that of his 30 completions, they went to 10 different receivers.
10 different receivers, but with 9 drop balls. And I think it's really interesting how they use their people.
Puts it inside for Crabtree and immediately belted by Melton. 10 different receivers, which makes it hard to zero in on anybody. That's, of course, the whole philosophy of spreading 4 and 5 different wideouts as Purdue does.
That's right. And talking with Coach Tiller and Jim Chaney, the offensive coordinator, they learned that defensive coordinators were planning their defenses based on the packages that were sent in. Here's Big Jim. He's not hard to find. So they start to vary their packages, and you've got all kinds of people running off. And on the field, you can't just gauge your coverages accordingly.
Brees on 3rd and 8. All day to look and find Isaac Jones, who almost broke it all the way. Finally driven out by Travis Ortega, but he breaks it up the side for 33 yards.
The field is spread so widely. Drew Brees, excellent poise, superb protection. Rice will have to get a pass rush and get in his face to keep this from happening. Then one missed tackle in the open field by Sadler there, and they have a long gain. And the offense is designed to cut down pursuit. Somebody's covering somebody else on the other side of the field.
Crabtree trying the middle. Melton quickly closing in from left defensive end. Let's check in the studio with Larry B.
All right, Dave, a lot of action already between Penn State and Bowling Green. Cordell Mitchell. This is the Nittany Lions' first offensive play from scrimmage.
300 there. Brees rolling off the fake, and for the corner of the end zone, ruled out of bounds is Cliff Jackson. Jackson not quite with the foot dragging. Junior college transfer out of Chico, California. It's 3rd and 8.
Coach Tiller is so happy with his junior college transfers, including Jackson. There are 7 that they signed. They're going to redshirt 1 defensive lineman. The other 6 are going to play today. Jackson had good concentration, tried to get his feet down. But when those JC guys can come in and make an immediate contribution, it really helps when you've lost the kind of skill that Purdue did.
Brees again from the gun on 3rd down. This one is complete and knocked out of bounds at the 4-yard line. Randall Lane, coverage by Sadler and Ortega. And that's going to be pretty close to where they had the marker for 1st and goal.
I think the hardest thing in sports is to hit a baseball. Mark McGuire may not agree. I think the second hardest thing is to protect the passer. This is a perfect definition of what a pocket is all about. If Rice cannot generate some kind of pass rush, if those big guys up front for Purdue can continue to protect like that, their offense will click all day long. That is a major key.
And that is how close they came to 1st and goal. So 4th and inches. And the decision apparently for Tiller, go for it. No kick unit out.
That's Dondre Johnson, who just ran on the field, a freshman back who's built low to the ground. Joe mentioned yesterday he really likes this guy. 4th and inches, I wouldn't be surprised to see him with the ball. And I think if there is a weakness to an offense like Purdue's, it might be when you get into 4th and inches and your linemen are just not quite accustomed to getting their hips up in the air, getting their pads down, and knocking people back. We'll see how it goes right here.
It is Johnson who gets the call, and with the dive easily. Enough for the 1st and goal down near the 2.
Coaches love to talk about this is where men are made. And the Purdue linemen show that they can indeed, led by Chucky Okobe, move this line of scrimmage in the direction that they wish and reestablish the line. That's what happens, and Johnson goes up and over. It's first down at the 4.
Tights again for the Boilermakers. And Brees off the play fake and a run it in himself. Touchdown, Purdue.
Drew Brees is not just a passer. Really interesting interview with his mom, who's an attorney and an athlete herself. She wanted him to be a tennis player. And he showed on the touchdown run that he has the agility. He may not be a blazing speedster, but he has enough speed to get it in the end zone from 3 yards out.
And the extra point by Travis Dorff, 7-0, Boilermakers. Drew Brees mostly does damage through the air, but not exclusively through the air. 10.5 to go early at Ross-Ade Stadium.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by Coors Light. It's frost brewed to tap the clean taste of the Rockies.
Boilermakers also led early against USC 17-7 at one point before wilting in the heat. The second half falling 27-17. Another good start here. Warsh, true freshman from Bozeman, Montana, Joe Tillard Country. High school All-America. Bounces this one to Michael Perry from his 2. And there is room on the left side for Perry. Out to the 36-yard line. Drive for the Boilermakers. First time they get it, culminating in the 3-yard keeper by Brees, who through the air was 3 out of 4, 51 yards. Most of that 33 yards on one connection to Isaac Jones.
The quarterback's job in a situation like this is to make the football disappear from the defense. He does that with a superb fake. He's got a blocker out front, Chucky Okobe. Gabe Cox got a nice block in the end zone, number 8. And it's the first score.
Bates to the air for the first time. Perry will plow forward to about the 42. Only completed 3 against SMU out of 7 attempted. Total of 59 yards, and that will be fairly typical in the output through the air most games for Jeremy Bates or whoever else is a quarterback for Hatfield.
Except for one thing. This year, Ken has been very public about the fact that this guy throws the ball well. Jeremy is a good passer, and they're going to open it up and be more balanced.
With this time off right tackle goes for the first down for Michael Perry, and back we go to Larry Beal.
Thanks, Dave. A little bit of a surprise here early. Iowa hosting Iowa State. Hawkeyes favored by more than 3 touchdowns. Darren Davis. Yeah, he's Troy's brother, barreling his way into the end zone. Cyclones stirring up the breeze, 7-0.
Breeze already has turned up here. And they say not quite enough for the first. It looked as if Perry had stretched over the line. They mark him down inches shy. It'll be 3rd and 1.
I wonder how many cool Breeze jokes this young man's had to endure.
I was looking for T-shirts on campus. They're not out yet. No question that Clint Leshper has enough for the first. The second-team fullback who did virtually all the carrying in the overtime period. They beat SMU 23-17 because of his touchdown on the 5th play of the overtime.
It was really impressive because they took the ball and knocked it right down against the defense into the end zone, a defense that had really handled them pretty well through the evening. They only had 253 yards rushing, which is 80 yards under their average from a year ago.
Jeremy Bates' father, Jim Bates, the defensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys. And Jim Bates and Tim Hatfield, anybody else who ever coaches, doesn't like to see that. Any of 3 Owls could be whistled, but I think first movement came from the left guard, Neil Gregg.
Neil Gray's been a really good player for him for 2 years. He's a
Dead
junior
ball,
now.
false start against the offense, still first down.
When you've got a young quarterback, the thing that you cannot have is to have your veterans show a lack of poise. Mr. Gray needs to get it together right now. There's never an excuse for a cadence error. Never. Veteran linemen, you give away drives. Those penalties are called drive killers, and they are aptly named.
First and 50 at the 43.
So they back up to a first and 15, and Bates will keep. Not for much, maybe 3.
Bates with the keeper.
Maybe to the 46. Bates at 5'10" and 170, may be the smallest big-time quarterback in Division I. There are not many smaller. But they love his competitiveness and the fact that no matter how hard he is hit or by how many tacklers, he is always the first guy bouncing up.
He is a tough guy. His dad's a tough guy. His brother was a tough guy as a linebacker in Florida. His mom is even tough. So, I mean, their family, he just expects it to be tough out there.
And Sevierville, Tennessee, to the air again. A little deeper this time. Incomplete, intended for Jason Blackwell, who was open, made a good break. Bates missed him by maybe a foot. Blackwell caught all 3 of the completions in their opener. Now 3rd and 12.
Developing an idea I mentioned a couple of series ago. Coach Hatfield is very intent on making his offense more balanced. And they joke about it. Well, he threw 6 passes a year ago. He's going to open it up. Maybe he'll throw 7 this year, which is what they did in the first game. I expect that we'll see the ball in the air more from this Rice team than from any of the last few years.
Shovel underneath for Perry, and it didn't fool enough Purdue defenders. Willie Fells, least of all.
Good job by Willie Fells, number 40. Leshborough, the fullback, is going to be the lead blocker. He's going to lead through an attempt to block number 40, Willie Fells. He goes the opposite way from what I thought, and he puts his head down, falls on the ground, and Willie's right there for the play. That's good defensive execution, poor offensive blocking. Anytime you put your head down, you're vulnerable to injury, and you're probably going to miss the block or tackle.
Grimes looking to improve on his first effort, and he does, and this will be a fair catch for Austin at the 16. 6:46 to go, first quarter, 7-0 Purdue. Almost at will the first time they got it. They drove it in. Brees himself scoring from 3 yards out. Only missed one of his first 4 attempts. And they start their second series from the 17. And their version of the option for Crabtree. The foot race, turning the corner for about 8 or 9. Run down by Travis Ortega. Rice defense having to get used to this spread attack. Dave Ryan, how are they doing so far?
Dave, still plenty of enthusiasm on the Rice sideline. After that Purdue drive, marching 10 plays for a touchdown, the defensive coaches told the Owls here on the bench, without the one missed tackle, they would have been all right. Guys, they're working specifically on containing Purdue quarterback Drew Brees. When he's flushed in the pocket, he can be very dangerous, as we saw, and Bill pointed out, a good runner, not just a passer.
Crabtree carried that one for 8 officially. And Brees looking for Randall Lane this time, maybe slightly behind it, but incomplete.
That's the first poor pass that Drew Brees has thrown. On the previous play, Joe Tiller decided he'd have a little fun with Rice's playbook and came with an option. And actually, Brees executed it reasonably well. Good for 8 yards.
I don't think he ever leaves a game not having had fun.
He says, and his coaches say, we play a lot better when we're having fun. We got some guys that are uptight this year, been dropping balls. So far today, no drop balls, one poor pass.
Randall Lane, one they try to loosen up whenever they can. Crabtree does not get close to the marker at the 25, hit by Rashad Reynolds, senior from Aiken, South Carolina. And the Owl defense does adjust to the tune of the 3 and out.
Rashad Reynolds is a player that Coach Hatfield was aware of when he was at Clemson. And he said that the South Carolina schools weren't recruiting him very much, so he was fortunate to get him to Rice. He's a superb student, as most Rice players are, student athletes. And he made a play that stopped the drive right there.
Danny Rogers, promoted from the Pooch punter last year, sails a beauty for McCalla inside the 25. Marker is down. Penalty marker as soon as McCalla started forward after a 51-yarder by Rogers.
Got a penalty. Adrian Sadler, number 27, blocking in the back. That's the call.
A couple of penalties really stymieing Rice in this first quarter. And with 5:12 to go, they trail 7-0 at Ross-Ade Stadium in West Lafayette. Kind of hazy. It is warm for Indiana. 88 the expected high, but that's 30 degrees cooler than what they were greeted with at the LA Coliseum and losing to USC. After the marker, they start from their 13, and on the option keeper, Bates spins forward for about 3. Coming up later today on the Deuce, a doubleheader of college football. It begins in the SEC. Number 13 Georgia heading to South Carolina to take on Anthony Wright and the Gamecocks, and at 9 Eastern, J.R. Redmond leads number 15 Arizona State into Cougar Stadium to take on the explosive offense of BYU. Both teams looking to avenge opening weekend losses. Owls to the line just in time for a timeout, and Bates headed over with some substitution questions I think they need to clear up. 4:40 to go. Oilers by 7.
I love lobster. Boiled lobster, broiled lobster, jumbo lobster, baked stuffed lobster, steamed lobster.
Ken Hatfield has done what a lot of people for decades thought was impossible at Rice, and that is succeed with a power rushing attack. Last 4 years, only 3 schools headed by Nebraska have outrushed the Owls, and last year only Nebraska outrushed them.
Yep, and that Air Force number there was started by Mr. Hatfield in the early 80s. He's the one who introduced the wishbone triple option type football to the service academy.
Bates breaking 2 tackles, and the first down up to the 26-yard line, ended by Mike Rose and Lee Johnson. Outside backers on the stop. Let's go to Larry Beal.
Hey, Dave, Penn State and Bowling Green. This is turning into one of those name-the-score games for Joe Paterno and company. Bob Namath picked off by LeVar Arrington, the outside linebacker. Tight ropes into the end zone. 21-0 Penn State. Rutgers and BC tied at 7 as they wind down the first quarter.
Well, so far, so good for the Big Ten. Oilers up early. Rice slipping it inside for Anthony Griffin, who will carry it a few times if they don't give it to Michael Perry from their A-back position. Sophomore from Gulfport, Mississippi, a state 100-meter champion and hurdling champion in Mississippi.
It appears in the early going here that Purdue is a better prepared team, offensively and defensively. This is the first time that we've seen Purdue begin to get creased a little bit by Rice's offense. But you've got to understand that a Ken Hatfield team is going to play 60 minutes hard, and they'll get better as the game progresses.
Brock Spack, defensive coordinator for Purdue. Bates having success, Bill, this series, keeping it himself and just trying to outrace people to the corner. That time, Derek Williams. Defensive tackle drags him down, but another Rice first.
Well, they're not going to let him pitch the ball to Michael Perry if they can possibly avoid it. They don't want Perry, number 8, who is a true speedster. They don't want him on the corner. SMU did the same thing, forced Rice to use their inside game, which means the quarterback has it or the fullback has it. They really have not run a triple option yet, but I expect to see that soon. They've got 2 types of triple option.
Fullbacks had 124 against the Ponies. Bates again will keep, and again for good yardage, and the competitiveness shows up there. He stretches forward and may have the chain. Let's check in with Dave Ryan.
Well, guys, offensive coordinator for Rice, David Lee, says Jeremy Bates, in his 24 years of coaching, is the most dedicated and hardest competing quarterback he's ever seen. He's also probably the smartest. He brings a legal pad to each quarterback meeting and writes every single thing David Lee says down on paper. Sometimes Coach Lee has to tell Jeremy to put down the pad and make sure he understands the point he's making. You bet he does. He's up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning to plan his day. He wants to be an NFL coach like his dad, Jim, the defensive line coach for the Cowboys. His idol guys, Oakland Raiders coach John Gruden, who follows those similar hours and known for a tremendous work ethic. Oh, and the studying has gone pretty well, too. 4.0 grade average last spring. Not bad.
Not bad anywhere, especially not bad at Rice. And 5 carries for 38 yards. Not quite enough for the first down. Inches shy. Jeremy Bates originally signed in the home state to back up Peyton Manning at Tennessee. And did so in 1995. Transferred to Rice, sat out the 96 season. Backed up Chad Nelson as a sophomore last year.
Do you understand what 4.0 means at Rice? It used to be Rice Institute, Rice University now.
I do understand that not many people get 4.0, especially not when they're putting in the hours football players do. Jamie Tyler to Purdue territory into the arms of John Reeves. Jamie Tyler from Austin Westlake, where he took handoffs from Drew Brees.
That's right, and Drew said, I can't wait to see my buddies. I hope we beat them, and then I can hug them after the game. And being in Indiana, dare we say, typical to Tyler too.
Well, I suppose we can.
I couldn't resist.
Drew Brees and Tyler, classmates all through great success at Westlake. And Anthony Griffin this time busting one for 13 more yards. Chased down by Fells. What have they figured out this series that they didn't know before?
If you'll recall, Brock Spack told us yesterday, the defensive coordinator for Purdue, this is a power football team. Power. They're going to come off the ball. They're going to knock people back, and they're going to crease them right in this gap. The defensive lineman's job is to close the hole, but the offensive line wins the job. Charles Torello, who's their best lineman. Mike Vietor, the center. Open that hole.
Broken ball, and Griffin again. And popped it up at the end of about a 2-yard pickup, but I think falls on it himself.
That's the counter play where the action begins in one direction and then comes back in the other that we showed you earlier. It was well blocked, but Griffin that time hesitated in the hole. You can't dance in the hole in wishbone football. You pick a crease and boom, you smash it up in there. The way he did the previous play. That's how you make yards in Ken Hatfield's offense. But back to what Brock Spack was saying, this is a power-running football team that also runs the option.
Through ball this time, and Bates will give it to Griffin on the pitch. And a first down to the 22. 4 or 5 times on this series, kept it, and this time as they reacted as if he would keep it again, he dished it to Griffin for big yardage. And shake it up is Brent Botts, defensive tackle for the Boilermakers.
Here he comes on a down-the-line option. This is not a triple option. This is the double option where he either keeps it or pitches it. There is an assigned man for each of these spots. Somebody's supposed to take the fullback, somebody the quarterback, and somebody the pitchback. What happens is you lose your discipline as the game progresses. Purdue began beautifully on defense, but they just keep coming at you. One man gets out of position, and there's the pitch, and they're down the sideline.
Well, as they check on Botts, a bit of a breather for Rice and some concern for Tiller. Sophomore defensive tackle Brent Botts out of Cincinnati. The setting for this week's stop on the kart series, really more noted for its golf than its racing, but not for the next couple of days anyway. Laguna Seca Raceway hosting the Honda Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Texaco 300. Alex Zanardi still holds a comfortable lead over Jimmy Vasser in the current point standings, but Vasser looks to close the gap with a repeat win at the Laguna Seca Road Course tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And let's get an update from Larry Beal in the studio.
Hey, Dave, top-ranked team in the country, Ohio State. Their home opener against Toledo. First offensive series For the top-ranked Buckeyes, Michael Wiley, he is gone. Had 140 yards on 17 carries last week in West Virginia. This will help his average. 77-yard touchdown, 7-0 Buckeyes.
That'll help. That's the Toledo that upset Purdue last year in their opener. Everybody thought, why did we hire this Tiller guy? He can't beat Toledo. Well, Toledo won 9 games just like Purdue did.
The MAC conference, year in and year out, produces several really good football teams. They don't have the depth of talent that Big Ten schools and SEC schools have, but they have marvelous coaches. They know what they're doing, and they can compete.
They are going to have to cart Brent Botts off. He had been rotating with Matt Mitrione at the left defensive tackle and got rolled up on. Just in a couple of plays ago, in fact, was Mitrione.
In a very physical game down there in the pit with the linemen smashing and crashing and the defensive lineman trying to get off blocks. This is what happens. Here's Brent Botts. He's lined up in a shade on the offensive center. The center tries to come off and escape him. The backside guard comes down. That is a legal block in football inside the tackle box. What they call the tackle box, that is a legal clip, but it is very tough on the knees. And what we try to teach the defensive lineman is, as the center or whoever's scooping and escaping you does so, you must move your feet. If you stay stationary, you could always get hurt. We certainly hope Brent's injury is minor.
Heath Fowler was the guard involved in that collision. 65 for Rice. Elsewhere around the Big Ten, specifically Wisconsin. Larry Beal, what's happening there?
Well, Ohio paying a visit, and Ron Dane, bothered by the ankle injury, missed the opener. He's back today, scores on a 10-yard touchdown run, 7-0 Badgers.
Taking a while to very carefully get Brent Botts situated where they can put him on the stretcher, and now the cart making its way from where he may be loaded onto an ambulance for further look. So while they take care of business with Brent, who we hope is going to be okay, we'll break with 1:21 to go in the first.
At Purdue University, step into a
Brent Botts being loaded onto the cart. He obviously is the first concern for everybody. Once they start up, this is now about a 5-minute delay. Does this affect either team necessarily?
Well, an injury like this always affects everybody. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt in football. There's too much talk about violence and we're going to kick you and we're going to do this and do that. It's almost like the pro wrestling thing where they really don't engage in real violence. But in football, some violent things happen, but it's not intentional. And everybody who's out there, to answer your question, Dave, is thinking, okay, we got to pick it up. We got to move our feet. Sure hope Brent's okay. And I'm talking about both teams. That's the feeling in the huddle on both sides right now. And he's getting a nice hand as he leaves the field. If you've ever been through that, it's not a good feeling.
Jeremy Bates, meanwhile, and the Owls having most of their success going to the right side, and Bates, especially on this drive, turning that right corner.
That's exactly right, and that could be for a variety of reasons. It may simply be field position. It may be that Pat Field and his coaching staff saw something in the defense. 12 carries over there to the right side, only 3 anywhere else. They've been successful with it.
1st and 10, and they give up the middle to Tyler, the redshirt freshman fullback. Keep him honest there. That's good for about 3 or 4 down to the 19.
The wishbone demands perfect execution on every play by the defense, assuming that the wishbone operation is being done properly. Rice has begun to improve its execution. There's more quickness, there's more confidence, and it's tough on the Purdue defense.
Break the bone to the left this time and run it that way. And Griffin on the pitch through an arm tackle, and it is 1st and goal. Owls down to the 7-yard line. Griffin for Michael Perry at their A-back, and right now you can't tell much difference between those two.
A fact of life. In the option game, the free safety must be a factor. Billy Gustin has got to get over here and make this play. It's excellent. It's excellent wishbone football. It is not a triple option, but rather a double option. Gustin's there. He doesn't get his head across. He misses the tackle. And he knew immediately that he had misjudged the angle and the speed of Griffin, the Rice back.
Hawthorne finally at the 8, where it is 1st and goal. And the fullback, first man through Tyler into the arms of Willie Fells at the 5-yard line, and that ends the first quarter. But it ends on an up note for Rice in position to tie it when we begin the second. Drew Brees, the only score in the first quarter, a 3-yard keeper. Bates has the Owls marching, though, and now they march all the way to the other end of the field, 95 yards away. Brees on the first series for the Boilers, 3 out of 4. That one to get them up, though, 7-0.
Of GoldenEye, Kobe Bryant in NBA Courtside, the WCW versus NWO, or Diddy Kong Racing for new additions to the Player's Choice Library for just $39.95. Don't miss it.
Long live Rome and on to victory.
There are times when you can't afford to miss a message.
Brutus!
When you get Skyward Plus from SkyTel, you get the message every time, guaranteed. There are times when you can't afford to miss a message. When you get Skyward Plus from SkyTel, you get the message every time, guaranteed.
The very first time I drove a truck, I was a driver helper. Somebody called in sick, and this dispatcher came out and asked me if he thought I could drive the truck. I was so scared when I got out in downtown on the hills, trying to work clutch. You got, I don't know how many tons behind me, and trucks rolling back, and it takes time to learn, but once you get it, I mean, it's like driving a car. I prefer driving my truck over my car.
The year was 1923. The automobile was changing America, and Purolator invents the oil filter, coining the phrase, pure oil now, pure oil later. Purolator. And the rest is history. After all, we invented the business.
Hi, I'm Ken Schrader, and I'm Mike Wallace. We'd like to congratulate Purolator on 75 years in business and your involvement in racing. You've been there for the sport, and you've been there for the customer. So happy anniversary, Purolator, and congratulations on 75 years of being the leader.
Finally, a polished brass finish that holds up under siege. New brilliance for the kitchen. From Delta, it's guaranteed to shine for life. Delta, the faucet.
It's 4th and long. He's going deep. It's tipped. Intercepted! Tired of missing all the action? Then go wide with revolutionary Bushnell Extra Wide binoculars. About 3 times wider than most regular binoculars. Extra wide binoculars from Bushnell.
15 minutes complete here at Ross-Ade Stadium in Purdue. A 7-0 lead for the Boilermakers over Rice. Welcome back to the sidelines. Injury update on Brent Botts of Purdue. Danny Miller, their head trainer, tells me it's a possible fracture above the right ankle. They're x-raying now. Could be a broken tibia, could be a broken femur. They'll look at it and get us the word as soon as possible.
All right, Dave, as we begin the second quarter, 2nd and goal for Rice from the 5 of Purdue. And they try fullback again. Maybe one, if that, this time. O'Keefer there to hop on Tyler. 3rd and goal.
Kalen Gordon was the lead back there, number 23, taking it up in their power football. People say, well, this is boring, but what Rice is doing is they're grinding away at the front people, wearing down the defensive linemen and the linebackers, and they're starting to take control of this game.
Blackwell comes wide right just in case. They try to get it through the air. They won't. They again call on Tyler, and he is stuffed outside the 1. Adrian Beasley up quickly from strong safety.
and they are not sending the kick unit on. So in 4-down territory, that call a little strange if you thought they were trying to score on the 3rd down call, but they were thinking apparently 4 and tie it all along.
What they're thinking is knock it in the end zone. Good play by Adrian Beasley. When your strong safety can stop the fullback, you got a good chance against this offense.
Bates with a flag down for the touchdown, but I think we had 2 Owls in motion.
2 Owls are in motion. Execution, execution, execution. It does not matter what your system is. You can only have one person in motion. This is not Canada. Coach Hatfield will remind them of that. It's an illegal shift.
Illegal shift. 2 men moving on the offense. 5 yards from the previous spot. Repeat 4th down.
Both wingmen, both went in motion. There they are. They're the guilty parties. Well, actually, only one of them was a guilty party. But you must get those calls in. Now, Coach Hatfield is a good Christian man, and he'll be forgiven for that response right there. But it's a very justifiable and understandable response, and there's not anybody that's been on that sideline that hasn't felt like took away a touchdown.
So they settled for Grimes and 24 yards. And he's good, but that's a 4-point swing. The Owls just cost themselves. Gordon and Griffin both in motion on what was a touchdown by Bates. Always a big key for Rice. Not necessarily for everybody, but in this type of attack, time of possession usually tells a great deal of their story.
Last week, they had the ball 46 minutes out of the 70 that they played in SMU. And the reason they played 70 minutes, obviously, is because of the overtime. Last year, in games that they won, they averaged 36 minutes with the ball, which means the other team only gets it 24 minutes. Now, Purdue doesn't care about time of possession. They'd like to score in 2 plays. Coach Hatfield knows that his players are not as big, perhaps not quite as skilled as some of the opponents. So as long as he can keep that defense over there on the side, he knows that he's winning. But when they get down close, again, in wishbone football, they got to have touchdowns. And that really was an inexcusable error there.
Order the ESPN Game Plan pay-per-view package, and you can lock into the best college football games across the country. Games from here, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, SEC, just to name a few. To order, call DirecTV, Prime Star, Echo Star, or your local cable company. Grimes after his 24-yard field goal. Ready to kick it deep, Randall Lane. And Chris Clopton, little 5'7" water bug. Fastest Boilermaker at around 4'3". Angled just in front of Clopton and just in front of the pylon out of bounds.
One really neat thing about Joe Tiller is his marvelous sense of humor. And I think that's one reason his team plays well, because he doesn't take himself too seriously. But the first time I went to a practice, Dave, last year, it was a Thursday night, and it was raining and cold. And Clopton caught a punt. Joe turns to me and said, I got that guy from junior high. They were Logan Junior this afternoon. But when I saw him accelerate, I said, Joe, I don't think that guy's from junior high. He can fly. Clopton's not the biggest guy, but he sure can turn on the speed.
Grimes didn't give him a chance to there, so they start from the 35, and that's intended for Sutherland. Incomplete. The Owls quickly hopping on it just in case it was a backwards pass, which it wasn't. Nice quick reaction, though, by Larry Ruffin.
And a rule change this year, and Ken Hatfield's defense was obviously prepared for it, and Coach Hatfield was very unhappy with the change, which was a backward pass can be advanced by the defense. So anytime the ball is thrown out in that region, in the event that it was a backward pass, meaning that it went backward from the quarterback rather than forward, then the defense can pick it up and advance it, and that's exactly what Rice's linebackers did.
The setback is Donbray Johnson in for Crabtree. Brees ball in the line on 2nd and 10. And the short toss incomplete. That one intended for Doyle Butler, freshman tight end. Now, why would Hatfield have that reaction to the rule change about being able to pick up backward passes, fumbles, whatever is out there and run it in? Why does that affect Rice more than most?
We should develop that. That's a very good question, because Rice makes its living pitching the ball backward. So any of their fumbles that go on the ground in a pitch situation in the past, if the defense recovered, it couldn't advance the ball, but now it can. And that's why Ken was so upset about it, being Fisher to Berry.
3 wideouts on the left side. 3rd and 10 for Brees. And the catch not nearly enough for the first down by Dondre Johnson, redshirt freshman from Kokomo, Indiana. Quickly hit by Adrian Sadler, and the Owl defense does its job. Another 3 and out.
Yeah, Adrian missed the tackle earlier that probably cost him the touchdown. This time he was very sure. He came up, kept his feet moving, bent his knees, and got his man on the ground. Nice play by Sadler.
Not a whole lot of wind. What there is at the back of Danny Rogers. Another low snap. First one he boomed, and this one's pretty close. McCalla muffs it, but comes back up with it. Couldn't decide what he wanted to do. He waved fair catch, then he tried to avoid it and tried to split the difference and narrowly avoided disaster.
Okay, people, this is a phone, and this is $1. You still with me? Well, that's good. Now, dial this number, and all your long-distance calls from home could cost less than $1. That's right, with 10-10-220, all calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents. Talk longer, and it's just 10 cents for each extra minute. No fees, no contracts. Am I right, Poochie? Just dial 10-10-220, then 1, then the number.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by 10-10-220. Dial it and talk up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents. And by Isuzu, specialized worldwide builders of adventure machines.
Part of the charm and history of the Big Ten, they don't just play for bragging rights up here. They play for trophies. You saw the Shillelagh in the Notre Dame Purdue series, the Cannon, the Illinois Purdue Trophy. Indiana and Purdue play for that old oaken bucket, and the Boilers most of the time have taken possession of the bucket, 46-24-3 in that series. Option keeper by Chad Richardson on his first snap at quarterback for the Owls for a couple. Iowa State, Iowa update. Larry Beal.
Yeah, Dave, there's a cyclone blowing through Iowa City. Joe Pelletier up and over, short touchdown run. Look at the score. 17-3 Iowa State, upset in the making, and this is no upset, not even close so far. 21-0 Buckeyes over Toledo.
Shocking indeed. Chad Richardson, backup quarterback as a freshman 2 years ago, backed up Perry at running back last year, back at QB this year. Keeps it and will be very close for the first at the 32. He has a different set of talents than Bates, but equally effective, they think.
Well, effective if it comes down to the stat that means the most. He was 3-0 as a freshman. He's a big guy, and it's wonderful in the wishbone if you can rest your quarterback. This is a planned run. This was never intended as a pass. He had a blocker out front. I think he could have read his blocker a little better and probably made the first down. But he's another competitor, another tough guy, and another smart guy. And that's what you have to be if you're going to be a wishbone quarterback.
Bigger than Bates by about 30 pounds. He goes about 200. Probably a little faster as well, and fast enough to pick up the first.
See, Bates gets to stand over on the sideline now. The last drive was long. He handles the ball. Those guys run a long way every time they run an option, even if they get tackled for no gain. They usually run 30, 40 yards. So he gets a breather, gets a little hydration, gets a chance to look at what Purdue is doing and come back in the game. Let Chad play a while.
Give it inside this time for Michael Perry. The Wax leading rusher as a junior a year ago, 103 yards per game. Lee Johnson, former running back himself, making the tackle after a pickup of 2.
Purdue's front people have obviously gotten some coaching on the sidelines since the last couple of drives, because they're not getting knocked around up there in the middle the way they were earlier. They're coming off the ball. They're getting some penetration, doing a better job.
Broken ball on the left side with Richardson. Will pitch for Perry, strung out the way you want to by Billy Gustin up from free safety.
Billy remembered. Billy remembered this guy can run. Now, Billy has great speed, but it is very important, no matter how fast you run, Billy's going to run this way, and he has to take a perfect angle, anticipate. And one of the things that Perry gives you is you get to this place right here, he is faster than you think to the corner. Coach Hatfield emphasized that, but Billy was up to the task this time, got his job done. When the free safety can do that, then you got a chance to stop the bone. Then comes the play-action pass, and whether or not the free safety can recognize the difference in the two.
He's fast, but Gustin is faster. He's sub 4.4. Quarterback draw, Richardson. Is he fast enough to get to the marker? Maybe. Going to be close. In the arms of Lee Johnson, he stretched forward for the 43. And I don't think quite got it.
Willie Fells is a fine player. He's right back here, the middle linebacker. He's going to miss this tackle. It's a planned quarterback draw. Richardson steps back. He's got a lead back who once again ducks his head, but this time Willie does not make the play because he ducked his too. You don't see Fells do that very often.
It is enough for the first down. So they don't miss a beat so far with Bates over there next to Hatfield. And they go to 3 wides, but they still run it, and it's Richardson with a marker down. In fact, 2. One thrown near the line of scrimmage and one thrown from way back in the secondary. Deshaun Austin, the corner on the right side, made the tackle as we sort out what might be 2 separate infractions.
Looked like Michael Perry, number 8, was holding on the play. We'll see if we can stop this and see it. No. Couldn't see whether. Now Richardson's banged up.
Offense, 10 yards from the spot of the foul. Still first down.
It looked like Michael Perry was holding on his load block. That was a true triple option. Read by Richardson correctly. He put the ball in the fullback's stomach. The defensive tackle came down, tackled the fullback. He pulled it, made a nice gain, but the penalty has negated it.
And apparently both officials saw the same infraction. That was the only one indicated. So Richardson back out, Bates back in on 1st and 16. And they come near side this time and pitching for Perry, and again strung out perfectly.
There's a phrase that coaches love to use. It's called speed of the game. Now, Purdue hasn't played in 2 weeks. They haven't played an option offense this year. Early, Billy Gustin obviously had not adjusted for the speed of the Rice backs. And just as obviously, he has now gotten the message. Your free safety must make plays like this. He's the lone man on the field that is not accounted for either by a blocker or by an optioning process. Good job by Gustin. Sharp as metal here.
Started the opener last year, broke his collarbone, and missed the next 6 games. Back in free safety now. Bates wanted to go deep. No such luck. Looked upfield for Matt Weber, who was covered, and Roosevelt Colvin shut out in their opener against Southern Cal. Not this afternoon. 12.5 sacks for Roosevelt a year ago.
I told you to expect the play-action pass. That's what happens here. The hope is that the defensive backs will be out of position. But in this case, Purdue's defensive backs were ready. The protection was good. Nobody to throw to. That's a coverage sack. And yes, Roosevelt got his first sack, but he needs to go in the huddle and say, thank you, secondary, for that one.
Co-captain, senior from Indy, 3rd and 18. Bates, late pitch, very dangerous, and it, fortunately for the Owls, rolls right onto their bench.
Do you remember what Michael said to us yesterday? He said, when you're out there with Jeremy, you got to stay loose. He might do anything. Well, he just did anything. Okay, this looks as if it's a real bad decision by Jeremy, but if you've got a guy at quarterback who's afraid to jump up in the air and make that pitch, you're not going to really move it. You have to take some risk in the wishbone. He just took one. I think Michael should have handled the pitch.
Well, at least, as Grimes is out to kick again, at least he pitched it where it's a pretty good chance nobody's going to recover that from it.
However, if they recovered it, what could they do, Dave? They could advance it. That's right. The defense could advance it.
They can now. Austin waiting for the kick. Another fairly short one by Grimes. He also handles the placement duties for Rice. 33-yarder at the 32, where Brees will set up shop. 8:33 in the first half.
There are people who believe the world is radically different than how it appears on television. Would you like to be one of them?
The free safety, one of the fastest defenders the Boilers have, and he is a heat seeker when he looks to string out the Bates Rice option.
Yeah, and when he arrives, he meets the definition of pursuit, which is to take a proper angle, run fast, and arrive in a very bad mood. Billy does that. He tackles well. Those necktie tackles make you remember him.
Boilermakers from their 32, leading 7-3. A basic 3 wide-out set. The short toss complete for Randall Lane for about 8 yards. The junior college transfer out of Chicago, who's one of the guys that they're trying to loose up. They say he is such a hard, intense, working type personality that they think he'll be better if they can try to force him into having fun on the field. I don't know if that's possible.
But Jim Chaney couldn't get him to smile. There's Jim, and we pointed him out earlier. Jim says everybody called him last year because he had all the answers. Now his mom won't even call him after the Southern Cal loss. If he can't make you laugh, I don't know who can. But that's right. They're trying to get their players to be a little looser and have some fun.
Here it goes with this philosophy. That one just overthrown. Intended again for Lane. Coverage by the best cover guy for the Owls right there, McCalla.
Yeah, and Lane is a junior college transfer. He hasn't been here long. Maybe he was here in the summer and he threw some with the quarterbacks, and maybe not. They aren't timed up as well as they will be later. That sort of touch throw takes a lot of reps, a lot of hours between receiver and quarterback, so that he has a feel for the speed of the receiver.
4 wides with 3 on the left side this time on the 3rd and 2. Gabe Cox in motion. And incomplete, intended for Tim Stratton, the tight end.
Yeah, that's just good coverage by Travis Ortega, the strong safety. Actually, he's the left safety. They play left and right rather than strong and free. And that was a big play. Travis Ortega's a good, tough guy, a big guy with good speed, closing on the ball, interrupts that process right there and knocks it loose. Tim Stratton has superb hands. I noticed that in practice the other day. In fact, he made the first catch on the first play of the game in this game.
Oh, a good afternoon already for Rogers. Last time, remember, McCalla did make up his mind. This time he runs clear of it, and there was contact in the process. Oilers down it at the 15. 45-yard punt.
I think the contact was from his own man. I think they'll pick that flag up because Matt Weber, number 6, who is a freshman, bless his heart, he's a redheaded stepchild. He's a redshirt freshman. He ran into his own guy.
He's a redheaded redshirt freshman.
A redheaded I don't know if he's redheaded or not, but. They're going to call it on Purdue. That's not the way I saw it. Now here's Chris Daniel. A very interesting situation evolved this week. Chris is a left-handed long snapper and a wide receiver. He's a little fella. Andy Standifer, the normal long snapper, was injured this week as they rehearsed Rice's punt protection scheme. One of the guys fell on his leg, and Chris has already thrown one on the ground today. And the happiest guy in the stadium right now is Chris Daniels, because that last snap went to the correct place, which is the hands of the punter.
unlike the first two.
He was probably not redheaded.
Well, break for Rice. They start moving farther upfield at 26. Big hole for Perry. And a big open field hit by Deshaun Austin. An update again from Larry Beal.
Hey, Dave, speaking of big holes opening up, Vandy and Alabama. Vanderbilt took the early lead 7-0, but Sean Alexander, who had 5 touchdowns last week, all alone. Flag was on Vandy. We're tied at 7.
Well, and Ken Hatfield thinks this one should be tied. It was briefly, but the illegal motion calling back Jeremy Bates' touchdown run. They had to settle for the Scott Grimes field goal, and that's why it's 7-3. Perry, not just straight ahead speed, but a little bit of a shake to his style. He can make him miss, and he gets about 6 and easily the first.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Deshaun Austin come up and make a play on him in the open field. That's what Brock Spatt said we've got to do. We've got to tackle in the open field. In fact, both defensive coordinators said the same thing. Michael runs with power and authority. This is the counter play. He starts as if to go this way, comes back inside. The linebackers flow the other way, and he's got a nice running lane there. And it takes about 3 people to get him on the ground. On the previous play, Deshaun Austin, number 33, made the tackle unassisted.
Up the middle and plowing out across the 45. Bates on the keeper.
Now, this is a fascinating thing they're doing here. When they get a tackle lined up on the outside shoulder of the guard, which they did on that previous play, they will audible to something called a midline triple option. They're looking at this guy right here, the 3 technique. The fullback comes straight ahead. The quarterback looks directly at the defensive tackle. If the defensive tackle closes, he pulls the ball. They're optioning. They're actually reading the 3 technique, which is quite unusual.
That was good for 4. This pitch for Perry, good for quite a bit more than that. Michael Perry, upended by Hawthorne inside the 40, a pickup of 15. Now, why is the previous play so unusual? Why was it thought that you couldn't do that?
It's always been thought that you could read a defensive end because he's so far removed from the quarterback. So you put the ball in the fullback's stomach and you look at that guy and you pull it out if he comes down hard and continue and let it go if he goes wide. What Rice is saying is we can read the defensive tackle lined up on the outside shoulder of the guard, and they've been effective with it. But they believe it is the most important addition to their offensive package in the last 10 years.
Yeah, they really consider that a breakthrough in option theory. Jamie Tyler breaking through the line. Pyle moving for about 10 up inside the 30. Fells and Austin combining for the tackle. ESPN Sunday Night Football continues tomorrow night from Indianapolis. Drew Bledsoe and the New England Patriots taking on the Indianapolis Colts and their new quarterback, Peyton Manning. And then on Monday Night Football, Steve Young and the San Francisco 49ers against the Washington Redskins and their new starter at quarterback, Trent Green. ABC and ESPN, your exclusive home for primetime NFL football. Owls on another march on 2nd and 1. Should be enough for the first for Tyler. Another tackle by the always active middlebacker, Willie Fells, junior from Palatka, Florida. His 7th already, in fact, for Fells in this first half, and it is another first down for the Owls.
Try to imagine being on defense for Purdue right now. You've been on the field most of the day. I'm not 100% sure what time of possession is, but Rice, when we said Rice was taking control of the game as they were about to score a while ago, which they managed to botch with a penalty, here we are 15 minutes and 51 seconds to 6 minutes and 2 seconds. It gets tiring out there on defense.
Broken bone up the middle for Griffin. They're the 4th time on this series they've tried that. The best it's been defended. First hit from Colvin on Anthony Griffin.
Then the obvious question is, well, if the defense is getting so tired, isn't the offense also getting tired?
I was just about to ask, why aren't they both equally tired?
I thought you were just about to ask, why aren't they both
Well, why aren't
tired? Because it's not as demanding to be an offensive lineman. You can play full speed, come off the ball, and block well, but you don't then have to shed and run 40 yards and chase some tailback or some wishbone halfback that's running to the sideline. The defenders have to run a long way on virtually every play, and they get tired faster.
Wishbone for Bates, and the late pitch again for Perry.
Struck out well. Guston. John Reeves also over there. And as he said he had to, Michael Perry never taken his eyes off Jeremy Bates. It's almost like if you're playing with Magic Johnson and you turn your head, you're going to get hit on the side of your head the instant you do.
You're exactly right. He's going to do anything out there. Now, if you want to know how it feels to look into the eyes of a real middle linebacker, there's one right there. Willie Fells never takes his eyes off Bates, makes him pay on the sideline. Outstanding play by the Mike linebacker. Tough to block that kind of guy.
The 3 wide set and incomplete on the shovel pass. Incomplete pass, not a fumble intended for Perry.
The umpire missed the call. He signaled Purdue ball. That is not right. That is a forward pass. They will correct that. And it will remain the ball of Rice, the possession of Rice. 4th down, they'll go for the field goal.
You know, they don't throw very many passes. You better catch this one.
Yeah, and it's confusing for the officials, and temporarily our umpire sort of lost it and thought that that was a fumble. Maybe he thought that was a backward pass and that the new rule would take effect. Not so.
43-yarder for Grimes. Longest of his career, 45. This one is blocked. Oilers let it go dead. Roosevelt Colvin rearing up to get a piece of Scott Grimes' 43-yard field goal. Still Purdue by 4.
The list of automotive awards received by Nissan this year is now even longer. J.D. Power & Associates ranked the Nissan Frontier best compact pickup in initial quality. And once again, IntelliChoice labeled both Nissan Quest and Nissan Sentra a best overall value.
Have run 18 plays from scrimmage to the 42 snaps by Rice. Rice has held the ball for 20 of the 26 minutes, but Purdue still leads by 4. Here's one reason.
Purdue leads by 4 because of this man right here, number 59, Roosevelt Colvin. Great jump off the ball, great effort, and just fights his way to the inside. Sandoval, number 73, is supposed to block down. He's supposed to get a good punch. He did not get his job done. Roosevelt simply beat his man, blocked the field goal. The penalty on the goal line and the blocked field goal has kept Purdue in this game.
Every time for them to add to their 4-point lead. Rolling Brees. He is remarkably accurate, especially on the run, and this strike to Cliff Jackson for 15 yards.
Brees going back to his poise. He's had a period here where he has not thrown the ball well. I did not see that in the Southern Cal film. Here he gets pressured by none other than Joe Bob Thompson. There he is, number 43. Superb route, easy outcut, good concentration on the low throw to bring it in for the completion.
It's shocking anytime he doesn't hit him right in the numbers. Crabtree breaking a tackle, continues up the side for 4 or 5 extras near midfield, and finally Joe Bob Thompson and Jason Hebert there to knock him out. There is a state law, as you're aware, every college team in Texas must have at least one Joe Bob,
and he has to be a linebacker.
There's the Rice Joe Bob Thompson.
They used to have 6 or 7, but they could have a Jim Bob at quarterback, and maybe they could pass the law. Joe Bob got out there and made that hit. But Purdue is starting to feel their oats and get something going here, too.
Outgain still 87 yards, but leading Brees. Chase still got it off. And complete for Isaac Jones.
And what we saw in the previous play was nice running by Jay Crabtree. Just plain Jay is going to get the ball a lot more in this game, according to his head coach, Tiller.
Crabtree from Coffeyville Community College, originally out of Wichita. Great explosion. They really emphasize lower body speed, and they like what he came to the program with, and they've even improved on it. Brees this time has all day and almost throws it away. Really should have been intercepted by Adrian Savage.
Yeah, that's just inexperience. He still had plenty of time. There's some alarm clock that goes off in the mind of a quarterback. Uh-oh, I'm about to get hit here. I'm standing here, standing here, standing here. Freeze frame it. There's no one near him. He does not have to throw the ball. He's got plenty of time. And out here, you can't see it in this, he's got Jay Crabtree standing alone. And instead, he throws what might have been the sure interception and a probable touchdown. A rookie mistake.
Marker down on, I think, the center, Jim Niedrich.
Dead ball. Ball start against the offense. Still second down. 5 yards from the previous spot.
The offensive center, who very seldom makes a mistake, cannot move the ball. Cannot move the ball. It looked like maybe Niedrich moved the ball slightly. The umpire was right on top of him and pointed to the ball, indicating that he had made that mistake.
From the gun, brought in at the 42 by Randall Lane. Another strike by Brees for about 10.
Yeah, Randall Lane and his mates at the wide receiver position, so important in this offense, are making their statement in this game. Hey, we're going to make the tough catches for you. You get the ball to us, we'll make the tough catches. There have been no drop balls by the wide receivers. There was one poor throw to the tight end that wasn't caught, but other than that, when they've been close, the men have come down with it.
So 3rd and 5 to keep this drive going for Purdue. Mission accomplished. Randall Lane has been the favorite target in this first half for Brees. Knocked out by McCalla easily enough for another Boilermaker first down. This drive has taken less than a minute to get inside the Owl 35.
There's an interesting thing going on up here in the offensive line. Chucky Okobe, number 56, is a really good player, but he's on the ground too much. He's ducking his head, diving at the feet of the defensive tackle, and sooner or later, that's going to cost him, either with a sack or a batted pass.
Crabtree tries to cut it back, and about 6 or 7 for Jay Crabtree. Willie Merritt, defensive tackle out of Odessa, bring it down to Jay Crabtree, all 5'9", 201, plays bigger than that. One reason they are so high on him. He's got big shoes. He's got 2 pairs, in fact. Edwin Watson and Kendall Matthews sharing the running game last year for Purdue.
What size are they?
They're large. They're 1,400 yards worth between them last year. This one batted down at the line by Terrence Melton, the defensive end. Coming up momentarily, we'll be at the half, at which time we'll throw it to Larry Beal. Let's get a preview.
All right, Dave, the National Car Rental halftime report is coming up. Tell you about Joe Paterno as he goes for number 300. The Buckeyes top rank, we'll show you why. Plus trouble for Iowa and Hayden Fry. It's coming up at the half.
Well, how huge that would be for Iowa State. Check that one out at Iowa City.
That's one of those you dream about when you're the number 2 school in the state.
On 3rd down, Jones is wrapped up in the double coverage shy of the first down marker. McCalla and Benford on the hit against Isaac Jones, normally the favorite target, and it is 4th down coming.
A very important thing between quarterbacks and receivers, especially young quarterbacks, we got a timeout here, is anticipation. We saw it there.
Minute 57 to go in the first half. Purdue looks to add to a 4-point lead.
Boilermakers using their first timeout. Rice also has 2 with 1:57 to go in the half.
We mentioned earlier that anticipation is critical for a young quarterback. When this ball is thrown by Drew Brees, his receiver is not open. By the time the ball gets there, Isaac Jones, number 6, has turned. The ball arrives perfectly. Even though the coverage is tight, it's a completion, gets him very close to a first down. That's really good to see in a young quarterback.
And after a few 3 and outs, Purdue bounces back. This will be the 10th play of this drive. Isaac Jones, the leading returning receiver from last year's group, which of course was headlined by the All-America Brian Alford, and they really don't have the stretcher that Alford was, the world-class sprinter speed that they could go deep to. They haven't really seen him try to go deep yet here. Only need less than 1. Dondre Johnson on the leap, as he did earlier, up and over the line for the first to the 23-yard line.
There wasn't quite the movement by the Purdue offensive line that time, but they got down on the goal line. And yet, he got up and over and got enough for his first down. Dondre Johnson. And he is greeted rudely right there. Excellent timing by Rice. Number 13 makes the hit. That's Jason Hebert, a redshirt freshman. He timed his leap exactly right, but a little late.
Sorry.
Drive continues for Brees. Going deep this time to the end zone. And caught for the touchdown by Jones. Drew Brees fearlessly challenging McCalla and Ortega, and it was Gabe Cox with the touchdown grab near the back of the end zone for Purdue, and the extra point by Dorsch. Cox with the score. Brees has now run for 1 and thrown for 1, and it is 14-3. And you talk about going up in a crowd. Watch Gabe Cox here.
Yeah, this is a big, big mistake by Drew Brees. He's going to go to the bench and he's going to say, Gabe, thank you so much. That is the epitome of double coverage right there. You can't be double covered any more than that. I made a mistake. Oh, thank you so much, Gabe. That ought to be worth a steak dinner from the QB. By golly, if they dropped him 2 weeks ago, they're snagging him today.
And Cox, a guy that they think has great big play potential, and they're looking for more where that came from. He averaged 26 yards a catch. Mind-boggling in junior college at Eastern Arizona.
And that was not an accident that he caught that ball. That wasn't just a lucky thing. That means that Gabe has powers of concentration. When he's in traffic, he focuses on the tip of the ball and he pulls it in. That's what happened on the play. Even though the ball should not have been thrown, once it's in the air, you got to go get it. One of those defensive backs should have done the same thing.
Perry waiting for the kick, and in the Rice scheme, not much time to work with when they get it. A minute and a half in the first half. Rice dominant for the most part statistically. They have missed some great scoring chances, though, and trail now by 11. Perry upended at the 30 and could have gotten about 20 or 30 more out of that, it looked like. Henry Bell got him a return of 21 yards. Coming up, the National Car Rental Halftime Report. Larry Beal, Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso, and among the stories they will update, the Buckeyes are rolling. The Hawkeyes aren't. And Jopa is well on his way to his 300th career victory. That in a minute 24 seconds.
I don't think Michael Perry looks like himself today. He looks just a step slower than what we saw in the film, Dave. I think under normal circumstances, he would have gotten to that corner and made a long run on that play. I think he's nipped a little bit.
2 blockers out in front of him. You figured he would break it big. Bates for no gain.
Let's go down to Dave Ryan.
Well, Dave and Bill, that was a nice long break for the Purdue defense, dealing with some pretty hot conditions. They were on the field for a long time during that last Rice drive here in the first half, but the Purdue training staff has been ready. They started hydrating the players on Wednesday, giving them sports drinks and lots of water. During the game today, there are fans on the Purdue sideline, plus plenty of ice towels on the head. As soon as they come off the field, that's the treatment they're getting. Also, the student trainers are pushing fluids to the players, trying to get them hydrated before they need it, trying to prevent any problems with cramping we saw last week in the Syracuse-Tennessee game at the Carrier Dome.
And 2 weeks ago at the Coliseum, on the field, they measured it at 118 degrees, and Purdue had a great start in that game as well, led 17-7, and especially on offense, came back with just nothing in the second half, and they were caught and passed, and USC took the win.
Yeah, their coaches, especially Coach Tiller, was pleased with the defensive performance, especially in the first half. Very displeased with what he called his team's inability to handle adversity. He said, I want to see these guys take adversity and turn it to our advantage. That's one of the lessons you're supposed to learn in this sport. And they're going to get another chance today. There's an adage in today's thinking about the hydration issue that if you get thirsty, it's too late. When you get thirsty, you're going to have a pull or a cramp somewhere. So you need to drink water almost all the time.
One more timeout for the Owls. He split 3 wide. Bates again wanted to go deep, couldn't do it, and settled short, and it is incomplete, intended for Kalon Gordon.
Kalon Gordon, number 23, is the H-back, and I asked Ken Hatfield if the H and A designation between his two wishbone halfbacks was by design. He said yes. Perry should be the ball carrier, Gordon should be the blocker and receiver. Yep, Bates goes down here. It appears that he's been nicked on the knee. He's coming on the full sprint to throw the ball. Foot planted. Chike O'Keefer, who did not get to play last year. He's all over the field, number 54. He ran the last play down from behind, from his defensive end position. He was a linebacker. He was dismissed from the squad for breaking of team rules a year ago. He's come back, and he gives the Purdue defense an extra burst of pursuit.
And the Owls will hope that the 14th hit absorbed by Bates isn't the last hit that he'll take. He forgot it. That brings Chad Richardson back in. He moved the ball pretty well. His first chance. Bigger, faster. Got him by about 30 pounds at 5'11", 200 for Chad Richardson. Into a crowd, and Jason Blackwell brings it down. Enough for the first of the 41, a gain of 13. 105 and holding as they move the chains. Remember, Rice down by 11 with a couple timeouts to play with.
Yeah, Chike O'Keefer is a heartwarming story. He's fought his way back from adversity and gotten himself back on the team.
Richardson has to tuck it and run down by O'Keefer. Think they didn't miss him?
But he was a Butkus Award candidate as a linebacker. His mom is a professor here at the university, or teaches. I think she's a professor. At least that's what the press guide said. Chike is lined up right here. Here he comes. He just keeps coming. Quarterback escaped from one guy, but Chike's coming full speed with an excellent pursuit angle. So he didn't lose his feel for football. He still understands the angles. Football is a game of leverage, angles, and speed.
And they just about convinced him that he is a defensive end. He was a linebacker. They think maybe in the future, if he goes on, he can be a good rush linebacker. He's got enough speed. But in this system, Brock Spack says, get out on that end and play the rush defensive end and just wreak havoc. And he is.
I think he's just happy to be on the team. I don't know him, but watching him in practice on Thursday, he was one of the most enthusiastic, upbeat, encouraging the other guys. It's easy to feel sorry for yourself when the coach has to discipline you, but when you come back and do what you're supposed to, it really pays off for everybody. And I don't think he cares where he plays right now.
Bates, you saw, trying to shake it off on the bench. Rice has held it 12 more minutes, just about, than has Purdue, but holding it and cashing it in have been two different issues for them. And a touchdown call back, a field goal blocked. Richardson hammered to the ground by Colvin. And the clock inside 40 seconds.
Backside blocking is so important. Roosevelt comes off the corner. That tackle's supposed to cut him off so that he can't get this done. He's not supposed to be able to get around here. Here he comes. He beats his man inside. His man's supposed to drive his head down and keep that from happening. You can't hesitate when you're playing against Colvin.
Colvin bouncing back, a solid first half. Quarterback draw, Richardson with 10 seconds to go, and Rice will apparently let it run out. Purdue out of timeouts and led the first half, and a frustrating first half it had to be for Ken Hatfield. Outgained Purdue, held the ball at will, couldn't punch it in where they had a couple of great chances. And at the end, they also get Jeremy Bates, their starting quarterback, hurt.
Last year, when they controlled the ball over 40 minutes, they were 3-0.
14-3 for the Boilermakers from Ross-Ade Stadium. We send it to Larry Beal in the studio.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. The National Car Rental halftime report is coming up next. We'll give you an update on Joe Paterno and the Nittany Lions as they go for 300. I got some company here. Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit. We got that plus a cyclone blowing through Iowa City. Could be trouble for the Hawkeyes. 14-3 at the half. National Car Rental report next.
This halftime report is presented by National Car Rental. So what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Welcome to the National Car Rental halftime report. I'm Larry Beal. Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit will join me in just a second. Joe Paterno going for career win number 300. You figure he's going to get it against Bowling Green. And the quote from quarterback Bob Neiman is a good one. He said, hey, it's like that McGuire thing. You want it to happen, but you don't want to be the victim. Sorry, Bob. Tough break. Take a look at where Joe Paterno stands in history, and he's moving up the charts. And look at it, 299 wins, and he does it in 33 seasons. He will be the fastest to get to 300. Bobby Bowden, the next closest to that mark, 18 wins away. Penn State and Bowling Green. First play from scrimmage. Cordell Mitchell to the outside, and he is gone. Had 99 yards in the opener last week. Picks up a big chunk right here, 77. Penn State up 7-0. This game was all Nittany Lions, and even though it's still going, it was basically over in the first quarter. Penn State with that 7-0 lead. They forced the punt, and look at Bruce Branch fighting off tacklers left and right, and Bowling Green going down like bowling pins. Gets away for 73 yards. The punter's not going to get him. 14-0 at that point. And Joe Pa, yeah, pretty easy so far. 34-3 as Joe Paterno will get to 300 wins, and he'll do it in 380 games, fastest of any coach in history. How about the Buckeyes, top ranked against Toledo? Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit, nice to be with you guys all season long.
Nice to have you.
Tim, talk about the Big Ten for a moment, because for years the contrast and compare with the Pac-10 was, well, the speed is all out west. The speed is coming to the Midwest.
Yeah, but it's not there yet, because I'll give you a perfect example. Last year, when Ohio State and all the rest of the teams went to the bowl games, the Big Ten was 2-5 in bowl games. And you know what happened? They got outrun, and 4 of those 5 games were teams from the speed states. Georgia, Florida, and Arizona. And they beat a team from Washington and Oklahoma. They're never going to win it all and continue to win it all until they get a lot of guys who can run fast.
Hell, you're right. The team in Columbus happens to have a lot of that speed, especially in the skill positions. I think if you talk about Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, clearly these 3 teams have gone out of the way to go out and get great skill. This year, there's a battle for that 4th best team. The way Northwestern, Iowa, and Michigan State have looked early in the season, I think the team you're watching right now, the Purdue Boilermakers, with the way that defense has upgraded speed on that side of the ball, Purdue, in my mind right now, is the 4th team in the Big Ten.
I like Wisconsin.
All right.
Which is a slow state? If California's a
Idaho.
fast state,
Yeah.
Idaho's a slow state? All right. I don't know how many players from Idaho were recruited by Michigan State or Notre Dame, but check for that tonight, because that is the featured matchup on ABC. The Fighting Irish and the Spartans trying to turn things around desperately. Otherwise, they're in for a long, long year. Purdue and Rice at the half. Drew Brees, he's thrown for 1. He has run for 1. It's 14-3 Boilers at the break.
How sweet it is to
At National, we always thought of ourselves as the top car rental company, and now we're glad to see that our customers agree. You see, according to a J.D. Power & Associates study, National's just been ranked the highest car rental company in customer satisfaction in a tie. Thanks. We couldn't have done it without you.
How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is.
Let's go.
Sir, it's a fully loaded citrus soda with carbo.
What's the matter, clown boy? You need to make a call, but you don't have the change. Just use 1-800-COLLECT. Go ahead, make some calls. You'll save a bundle. That's great. Mine's 1-800-COLLECT. 10 cents a minute every evening.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila, and this is Craftsman innovation at its best. Craftsman RoboGrip pliers are the world's first self-adjusting one-handed pliers. With just a simple squeeze of the spring-loaded handle, the jaws automatically adjust. The Craftsman RoboGrip works on faucets and hoses, or for auto repairs. It has hundreds of household use.
Kansas State has designs on a national championship. They opened with a cupcake, 66-0, as they beat Indiana State. Today, it's not a cupcake, it's a Twinkie. Northern Illinois comes in, having lost 19 in a row, a streak that does not figure to end today. For the second straight week, David Allen takes back a punt return, and watch the little guy go, weaving his way through traffic. 69 yards for the touchdown to make it 13-0 Kansas State. And they're going for the fake. Two-point play. What is it exactly? Perfect execution, guys, huh? Shad Meyer, right place, right time off the tip ball. It's now 39-7 as K-State looks to go to 2-0 against mediocre opposition. I'll be kind.
Being very polite.
Vandy and Alabama. First quarter, 2nd and long for Vandy. They were shut out in their first game, looking for their first touchdown of the season. Tavares Hogan on the slant. And he's gone 50 yards for the touch. 7-0 Vandy. And some Crimson Tide fans getting a little nervous. When you get nervous, give it to Sean Alexander. Had 5 touchdowns in the opener. Forget about the penalty flag. 36 yards there. That made it 7-7. J.D. Phillips to Quincy Jackson, 31 yards for the first Bama touchdown not scored by Sean Alexander this season. And it is now 14-7, the Crimson Tide leading Vandy. Memphis State over Memphis, 7-3. Mississippi State has won 5 of their last 6 games against teams outside the SEC, and they figure to be able to handle Memphis. We've got more SEC action coming up tonight on The Deuce. The Georgia Bulldogs and their young quarterback taking on South Carolina and the Gamecocks. That is 6 p.m. Eastern, not on ESPN, but on ESPN2. And speaking of Quincy Carter, here's what the freshman did last week against Kent. Kirk Herbstreit, like numbers, 12 of 16 passing, 235 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And you talk about this guy. Really, Georgia has a lot of holes to fill because you look at who's not there from a year ago. Hines Ward, Mike Bobo, Robert Edwards. So he's got to fill the void, and you think he can do it?
Well, that's 81%. Those 3 men accounted for 81% of Georgia's offense from last year. Although I talked to Jim Donnan earlier this week. He is very, very cautious about taking his young team on the road to Columbia, but I like the chances with Quincy Carter. He's going to dance around. He has a knack for making things out of nothing. He can run, but his best strength is that hose on his right arm. He can really let it fly. Georgia on the road gets it done.
Good. The first time ever a not so fast at halftime.
Right.
I like South Carolina. I like Anthony Wright, the quarterback, comes back from a knee injury. Nighttime, Gamecocks, go. Big upset.
All right.
Nighttime, game time, go.
You guys can square off later. Mud wrestle at the 50-yard line. Our score at the half is 14-3 Boilermakers.
Holy cow, the market dropped big time. Better call my broker and put in a buy order.
You never did follow the crowd, JT. Is that why you're having breakfast?
They open the season with an upset, some would say, over Auburn. All right, what do they do this week as they've got Maryland? Take a look. Terrence Wilkins, nice grab, would lead to a 2-yard touchdown run and 7. Purdue leading the Owls of Rice 14-3.
Work piling up.
Let's go. It is. But where is his wife? He got married in the offseason.
Slip that in there.
There is Allison.
Nice.
And she's surrounded by cheerleaders.
The alumni
She's in
game,
good hands right there.
A lot to cheer about today, I guess. Isn't that nice?
Enjoying the Buckeyes
victories.
against Toledo,
That's
which,
right.
you know, no problem right there. All right, back to more serious business. Rutgers and Boston, because they won last week, and they beat Richmond, 1AA. Now they got to go into Big East competition. And we take a look. Mike McMahon to Bill Powell, 56 yards, and Rutgers is thinking upset. But BC does come back. 3rd and goal from the 2. Mike Cloud breezes into the end zone. That tied it up at 7, and since then it has been all BC as they have taken control of this game against the upset-minded Scarlet Knights. It is now 20-7 in the 3rd quarter. Cloud, 15 carries, 71 yards, and the touch that you just saw. Iowa and Iowa State. Darren Davis turning this one into a route that you would not expect. 15 straight times the Hawkeyes have beaten the Cyclones, knocked out of bounds there, led to a touchdown. And guys, Iowa State up 24 on Iowa.
I don't know which is worse, this or Duke beating up on Northwestern. Big Ten's taking it on the chin.
Yeah, at least they are today. They need more speed, says Lee Corson.
Yep.
All right, we got more
Stay
speed.
at Idaho.
More speed coming up from NASCAR. 7:30 tonight, the Exide 400. 7:30 Eastern. Back to the game after this.
Caught by Lane at the 25. What is the report, Dave Ryan?
Well, guys, bad news for Rice. It looks like Jeremy Bates has a torn ACL in his right knee. Just talked to the trainer, Alan Eggert, a couple of moments ago. He was taken off after halftime, being injured late in the first half, very gingerly on that leg. They looked at him. Coach Ken Hatfield knew he was a very serious injury, so they're going to have to go with Chad Richardson, who, by the way, was knocked on the nose in the first half as the starting quarterback. He had blurred vision for a while in the first half. He's their #1 now, guys.
ACL. Terrible news for Jeremy Bates and for Rice. Stretch and grab on the first play of the second half for Purdue, and it's A.T. Simpson on the catch. And in the first half, Rice outgains Purdue 204-157. They dominate, as you'd expect, on the ground with 182 rush yards, and in time of possession, 21-09 to Purdue's 841. But as you pointed out, Purdue's just as happy to score in 2 plays.
Yeah, they don't care about time of possession. Rice does, and the payoff comes in the 4th quarter if the Purdue defense can't keep up the work in this heat.
Big Crabtree hit by Rashad Reynolds.
The whole idea of the wishbone offense is to grind down the opposition, to wear out the defense. And as I said, we'll find out in the 4th quarter, #1, if Richardson is the man who can come in and deliver for his team with or without blurred vision. Of course, they won't let him play if he's got some sort of mild concussion. But we'll find out, too, if the Purdue defense can hold up in the heat against this withering attack that the wishbone offense puts with 21 minutes and change of possession in the first half.
Crabtree motioning on 3rd and 2. Brees hit as he delivers incomplete. And it came with Benford on the blitz that time to upend Drew Brees, and a 3-and-out for the Boilermakers to start the second half.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen Brees go down. Rice is lining up in a variety of defenses. They get in a Bears defense, meaning that there are 3 down linemen here covering both guards and the center, and they send the linebacker. He comes free because there's no blocker for him, and he hits Brees. They're going to need to do more of that. And that young man, Benford, there is a 3.96 student. What a punt.
Beautiful nose down job by Danny Rogers. Not much on the return either by McCalla. 51-yarder. Rogers has had a couple 50 or better. And the coverage excellent by Henry Bell.
Yeah, number 27, Henry Bell, a backup corner, made that play, and he made a beautiful play on the opening kickoff of the second half. I didn't get a chance to talk about it. He pulled off of the fair catch at the beginning of the second half and kept a major penalty from occurring to his team. And he participates in this tackle after a booming punt by Danny Rogers, who proves he's not just a short punter anymore.
Chris Zerba right there with him as well to combine. So it is Chad Richardson with Bates out with the ACL tear, and his pass deflected by Lee Johnson. Now, if Richardson, for whatever reason, has to go out, the backup for him is a sophomore named Ben Wolf, who played linebacker last year.
Hey, linebacker and wishbone quarterback are not nearly as different as you might imagine. That's just part of the deal. But you study the NFL every year and see who the most injured position is. You get hurt at quarterback just standing back there, and those 280-pounders get a running start. There's not a lot of difference.
And you saw Ben Wolf wondering if indeed he might be called on. Richardson is hogtied. Got him up collar high at the 28 by Lee Johnson. Dave Ryan talked to Ken Hatfield at the break.
Yeah, a few minutes ago, Dave, and he said the big key to the second half would be the first 5 minutes. What they needed to do is get a good stop on the first Purdue drive here in the second half, and they've done that. He said, hey, a couple of plays, that great catch in the end zone for the touchdown by Purdue, and that penalty they had with the 2 men in motion costing the touchdown. This will be a different game. He said the guys are encouraged, have a lot of enthusiasm for the second half, Dave.
As is usually the case, the always upbeat Ken Hatfield, keeping them pumped up.
We've really got two of the top coaches in America in this game, in Tiller and Hatfield.
3rd and 5, and Richardson pulls it back from the fullback and continues on to the 36. First down.
We discussed the midline triple option, in which the quarterback actually reads the defensive tackle. He's going to read this man right here. When the ball is snapped, he's going to look right at that guy. See what he does here. The man closes, and the quarterback is going to continue to the outside. They never block him because he thinks the fullback has the ball. Beautifully executed triple option while reading the defensive tackle.
And Lesper carried it out pretty well from the fullback spot. Michael Perry right up the middle for about 12. Now in the first half, did Perry look like he was his usual self? There was one kick return opportunity in particular where it looked like if he had his usual burst, he might have been gone.
Well, you and I have been marveling over his quickness and speed, and it just looks like today maybe he may have a slight pull, but he wants to play in the game. He's out there. Maybe he's dehydrated. He's still running well, but he normally looks quicker than this.
Perry for a dozen up to the 48, another first, and Richardson coughed it up. Rice with the recovery, though. Kalon Gordon alertly hopping on it.
Yeah, Kalon would like to redeem himself. He's the guy that went in motion down on the goal line to cost his team the touchdown. So maybe his recovery here will atone somewhat if they can keep this drive alive. You don't want to come up 2nd and 11. The ball's ripped out. Good play by Matt Mitrione. And by the way, Matt's made a number of good plays today. Number 98, redshirt freshman from Springfield, Illinois. Obviously going to be a good man in there in the middle.
Mitrione, who had to come in after splitting most of the first quarter to take over full time for Brent Botts, who they think may have a broken leg. They were checking on him when they carted him off. Richardson into traffic and almost intercepted, intended for Blackwell.
Yeah, and Chad Richardson goes from bad trouble to worse trouble. If you're able to escape the rush, calm yourself down and either find an open man or run straight ahead and take what you can get out of the play. Right here, he's in trouble. He avoids the rush and decides, well, I think I'll just force something to happen. Throws it right into coverage, and he's very fortunate that the ball was dropped by the linebackers. Looked like about 6 of them. Since there are only 3 in the game, I guess it couldn't have been.
Keeper plays like 2 or 3 just by himself. Richardson stumbling out of the gate, throw on the run, incomplete again for Blackwell, and broken up by their best cover corner, Michael Hawthorne.
Michael Hawthorne is a superb athlete. We saw him last year twice. He can cover the best receivers. Nice break on the ball. Defensive backs have to have excellent body control. That would have been a first down. Good recovery by Richardson. Tripped over the grass monster out there. Got his feet under him. Made a nice throw, but not quite good enough.
Grimes outkicked pretty seriously by his counterpart Rogers in that first half. Another short effort here, well in front of Austin, who takes the Rice hop, and they let it roll inside the 15. 10 minutes, 34 seconds to go in the third quarter. Purdue on top of Rice by 11.
Want to color your gray beard or mustache and get a natural look? It's easy with Just for Men Gel.
You look so natural, no one can tell with Just for Men Gel. No one can tell with Just for Men Gel.
It's not regular hair color.
ESPN's presentation of college football is brought to you by Just for Men, the leader in men's hair coloring. Blends away gray in 5 minutes. And by Century by Buick, a luxury car for everyone.
Haven't seen a cloud all day above Ross-Ade Stadium, where it is heating up into the high 80s. Purdue will start from their 15-yard line, leading 14-3. And underthrown intended for Vinny Sutherland, who has not been much of a factor so far. Let's get an update on the Wisconsin Badgers from Larry Beal.
All right. Ohio and Wisconsin, and Ron Dane missed the opener, making up for lost time here in game 2. Look at him pull his way into the end zone. 18 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Will the big and 24-0.
Not much on the ground at all today for Purdue, and that was less praise than their work through the air last year. But they outgained some fairly stout rushing attacks on the season last year, averaged 175 yards. There's 34 yards on the ground in the first half against the Owls. This is Dondre Johnson, who has spelled Crabtree quite a bit. Larry Brown, true freshman nose guard on the tackle. 5.2 a carry last year, best per rush average in the Big Ten. 3.7 is all they got, a yard and a half less against USC, and less than that today, barely 3 yards per carry.
Yeah, coming into the game, I felt like the adjustment capacity of the two defenses would be the biggest factor in this game. Both defenses have settled down after early problems and are playing extremely well.
Among others, they outrushed Ohio State last year on the year, almost outrushed Michigan. Brees looks all the way across and almost hits his target, Randall Lane, at the 45. Markers on the field. Londy Smith had the coverage, and Brees had a day and a half to survey all possible angles.
Yes, indeed, but 2 rookie mistakes on the same play. Here's the call. He threw the ball from behind, beyond the line of scrimmage. He should know where he is on the field. And number 2, he didn't get his shoulders around, and he lobbed it up in the middle of the field, which normally is intercepted, and it goes the other way for 6 points. It is also loss of down. That was not a good play by the young QB. He has not had a good series here. He threw the first one in the dirt, and he threw the other one up for grabs after having crossed the line of scrimmage with the ball. Coach Tiller will teach from this, and that's how you learn when you have to go play quarterback in the big leagues.
Rogers needing to boom another one because he punts here out of his own end zone.
Yeah, he was the short punter last year. He didn't get a chance to get any of these big boomers, but he's doing a great job today.
Adolphus McCalla hopes to get this one around midfield. And this is not his best effort, but he gets a big roll out of it inside the 37-yard line. And thanks to the roll, it's another 50-plus effort for Rogers, 53 to be exact. Third meeting in their history, being led by Purdue through shutout wins many, many years ago. Rice here in 34, Purdue and Houston in 58. It's been 40 years since these two have gotten together, and so far Purdue has overcome a statistical disadvantage to lead throughout on the scoreboard Rice taken over from their 36-yard line after another good punt by Rogers. And it is Anthony Griffin up the middle near the 45-yard line.
The counter isolation, so-called because of the counter action, the backs going away from the direction which they eventually end up running with a lead back. That's what the 4-back offense gives you. Counting the quarterback, you got 4 running backs in the backfield. And again, the distinction between these two systems, Dave, you talked about it early. Sometimes Purdue plays with no backs in the backfield. Rice plays with 4 most of the time.
9 on the first down carry. Jamie Tyler pushes it across for the first down. We've been wondering about Michael Perry. Dave Ryan, what's his story?
Well, yeah, you and Bill, guys, talking about Michael Perry looking a step slow out there. Maybe the Rice trainers say he's all right, nothing wrong with him, but that everyone out there, all the Rice players, are being affected by the heat today. Also, guys, keep in mind it's long grass. The turf here is very high, and maybe that could be a little sluggish for Michael Perry out there. One other update also with Purdue, the sophomore defensive tackle Brent Botts, broken right ankle. He will need corrective surgery. That'll happen very soon, guys, here in West Lafayette.
Boy, 2 pieces of horrible news. That and then the torn ACL by Jeremy Bates, the starting Rice quarterback. Numbers not bad for Perry. Still 5.5 for Perry. Reverse. They get Matt Weber a little room around the far side, and Matt may have a first down. Freshman from Cumbie, Texas, knocked out by Billy Gustin.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing everybody gets to flowing, thinking about their responsibilities to defend the front side of the wishbone. Somebody's got to be responsible for the backside. Somebody's got to stay all over here, either a defensive end or a linebacker, sometimes a corner. I would have to know the coverage in order to know whose responsibility it was, but whose responsibility it was did not get the job done. And so a big gain to keep this drive going for Rice.
They like these 2nd and 1s. Second straight carry on 2nd and 1 for the first down by Jamie Tyler, the fullback. Iowa State kicking around Iowa all afternoon. Larry Beal, their update.
Dave, the Hawkeyes trying to come back. Liddell Betts up the middle, spins into the end zone. 2-point try was no good. It's 27-9 Cyclones in the 3rd.
They try a lot like Joe Tiller in that he is replacing an awful lot of skilled people. Adrian Banks among the others. Fumble snap covered by Richardson.
Now, we joke a lot, I joke a lot about the centers never making mistakes. In that case, that was a mistake by the center. And it's inexcusable. He snapped the ball as Matt Baldwin, number 67. He's being pulled. He snapped the ball on the wrong count. Nobody else moved. That's a terrible feeling. It's happened to every one of us that played the position. Matt's got to bear down and remember the snap count. Cost him a down.
That out of Sylvania, Ohio, splits time with Mike Vietor, a 4-year starter from College Station who is back in. Griffin hit upon taking the handoff by Mitrione.
Yeah, Matt Mitrione has made himself a substantial factor in this game. He defeats the blocker. He's pounding his chest a little bit. Here's Matt right on the center. Vietor, the veteran center, comes in, actually gets a little movement, but he loses the block, goes to the ground because Matt keeps his pad square. He's able to come off and make a nice tackle. Good play for the redshirt freshman.
And he says little help. Let's get up for this one. 3rd and 9. Owls out of the bone, looking to get to the 28. They keep it on the ground and to give for not much at all to the fullback, Tyler. Yet another hit by Matt Mitrione.
A lot of people are going to criticize Ken Hatfield for that call, but that was a read. That was a triple option. The quarterback read it in the manner that he assumed was correct. He needs to be right at least 86%, according to David Lee, the offensive coordinator for Rice. On that occasion, the 5 technique, or the defensive end, closed and tackled the fullback for a short gain. So the quarterback's read was not correct. Here's David right here. He'll get that corrected.
They go for it on 4th and 6. Richardson complete. Jason Blackwell. And at the 23, he's gang tackled, but with plenty for the first down.
You really have to respect Chad Richardson, who came off the bench and into this game, taking the place of Jeremy Bates. He may not have a clinic delivery with that sidearm throw, but by golly, he gets it in there. And there have been some pretty good sidearmers who played in the National Football League for a long, long time. I think of Sonny Jurgensen, who didn't always come right over the top, but he had accuracy.
Jason Blackwell hurt.